Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending here today's presentation. What I want to have a little chat about is the reusability of content, and in many different ways. Let me start to tell you a little bit about the company. I'm not going to give you a pitch from a commercial perspective, but I think it's important that you understand where we are coming from. First of all, from a technology point of view, we are a spin-off of Canon Corporation, Japanese manufacturer, and we own a patent in both Europe as well as Japan and the United States for the deconstruction of printed media, which is newspapers, books, magazines, all kinds of leaflet, collaterals, whatever. And currently we are processing 2,000 plus publications from PDF to flawless XML. And I iterate on the word flawless, because in today's world and publishing systems, including many of here who are exhibiting, to push out elegant 100% correct XML from a publishing system is something that I don't see often, but it's extremely important for content syndication and content distribution. So the patent that we own is that we can take a page, let's say of a magazine in this case, and deconstruct it to XML, and not just any XML, but we keep track about the reading order of an article. We automatically tag what is a headline, a subheader, a byline, keeping track about the reading order, the pictures and the associated captions. And I will explain what we do with that. If you look at today's world, we are working in many continents, including the West Coast and the East Coast of the United States, of course Europe, but also to Asia. What we see is a very strong trend that publishing companies are paying more and more attention on reader payment, to sign them up as a subscriber. Now, I'm from the Netherlands, and by the way, in the Netherlands, everybody subscribes for more than 100 years. Excuse me. So what happens if you are subscribing to a magazine or a newspaper? You don't buy it at a newsstand, but you subscribe. That's a very normal situation in the Netherlands. But in the UK, nobody subscribes. So it's the completely other way around. A lot of large publishing companies, including, for instance, The Guardian, are now paying a lot of effort to attract people to sign up, let's say, subscription-based, at least paying services to get access to content. If you look to the growth in digital advertising, then, and maybe the lady who was before me has addressed this already, that you would see that 99% of all digital revenue is being consumed or taken by giants like Google and Facebook, and only 1% is left for anybody else, which includes you, I guess. So that is a non-desirable situation. If you look to large publishers like the Wall Street Journal, they lost 21% of their ad revenue in the last quarter of last year. Similar for the Wall Street Journal. And even people predict, like The Economist, that in 2025 there will be not such a thing as ad revenue in their publications anymore. Now, if that is true, yes or no, that's the question. But these people are at least addressing this, right? So what to do? That's the big question, because these figures are all negative. So how to maneuver away from that, so to say. If you read analysis like maybe from Reuters or from other companies, they would advise you to do three things. Generate more revenue from existing customers, persuade new customers to start paying, which is challenging, and launch new services. The question is, what services? And how to achieve all of this? The second trend that we see is data and loyalty and personalization. All of a sudden, big data is interesting. So how much data do you have of existing customers? And can you monetize that data? That's the question, which is very important. Because can you also generate money out of that? Last Tuesday, there was a conference in Vienna from an association called the PDLN. Can I see some fingers raising who knows something about this body, PDLN? So I guess it's very well known amongst you, all of you. But guess what? This is the licensing agencies worldwide who are acting on your behalf to make sure that if they sell content of your newspaper or magazine, that you will get money. So in Austria, it's the APA. In the UK, it's the NLA and the CLA. Each single country, in Germany, it's PMG. So these are licensing bodies. And the licensing bodies are dealing with MMOs, which are media monitoring organizations. So people who sell content in the business-to-business space. So you can think about companies like Kantar and Gorkana and LexisNexis, Ubiquity, Auschnitt in Germany, Isentia in Australia, and the likes. These are multi-million revenue-generating companies. So even, let's say, Isentia, which is in Australia, which is a very small market, so they have something like 22 million citizens in Australia, they generate something like 280 million Australian dollars selling content in the B2B space. By the way, they don't make any content, they resell content that has been generated by magazines and by newspapers and sell it into the business-to-business space. So their customers are typically large corporations, maybe like Volkswagen, and Volkswagen might be interested to read something about their financial performance or about the remains of Dieselgate. And they want to be portrayed in a positive tone in important influential magazines and newspapers. And therefore they hire these kind of companies. The reason why I'm telling you something about this is that this market, the MMOs of this world, are around for more than 100 years. And they sell content for big time money to business customers. And in fact, they have three major demands, their customers. Number one is consolidation. So they're going to sign up a large contract, maybe for 1 or multiple years, but they expect such an MMO to provide them with one pipeline of crucial data to them. And the MMO should take care about licensing that data. So consolidation is of big importance to them. The second one is speed. So they want to have a full coverage of what's written in the press about them, about their CEO, about their products. And the first time of the day is before 6 a.m. and maybe multiple iterations throughout the day. So speed is of the essence. The last one is maybe the most important one, and that is relevance. These large corporations don't want to be overwhelmed with shiploads of articles. 2,000 articles or more on a daily basis, which is easy. They want to have the most crucial ones, the most relevant ones to do their business, right? And they are very strict about that. So if you are delivering as an MMO non-relevant content, they're going to yell at you big time. If you miss an article, you are even in a worse situation. So relevance is of extreme importance to those B2B customers. Now we think that a lot of lessons in that specific space, the business-to-business space, can also be deployed or should be deployed in the business-to-consumer space. And let's give you a few examples what is going on. So you would see a lot of kiosks in this world. Even the kiosk of a press reader, right? But you would see kiosks like iKiosk in Germany, owned by Axel Springer. You would see Blendel in the Netherlands. You would see Texture in the United States. You would see Amazon Kindle, MacShop, Readly, Maxter, Google Play, just to mention a few. I could fill up 20 different slides with all kinds of names here. But there are some interesting differences between the one and the other. Let's have a chat a little bit about Blendel. Did anybody here ever visited Blendel? Okay. So Blendel is a Dutch startup. And the Dutch, including myself, we consider ourselves to be the Scots of Europe. We don't like to pay for nothing, for sure not for content. We think everything should be for free. So while Blendle started and telling publishers that they wanted to set up a service whereas customers would have to pay for a single article, everybody said, these guys are nuts. It's not going to happen, idiots. We will work with them to have a laugh with them, right? It turned out to be the other way around. They did make some money, and Holland is a very small country, so we, a little bit depending on who you ask, we have something like 18 million citizens. The most successful article last year, which was an interview with an author who committed suicide 2 days after the interview. Maybe not related with the interview, I don't know about that. But that sold 30,000 times for 99 € each. This was from a very small publisher. That was a very interesting sale for that specific publisher. Blendle, as a company, has now also, let's say, introduced what they call a premium subscription, where you pay something like close to 10 € a month, and you can read as much as you want. If you look to Texture, who is aware of Texture? One person. Texture is a different approach. Texture is being owned by 6 large North American publishers, including Meredith, Rogers Media, Time Inc., etc. They are similar to Blendle, but here the publishers own the portal. Not so much is that important for, let's say, the money flow. So if Blendle sells an article, on average, 30% is for Blendle and 70% is for the publisher. But what is interesting in Texture is that they also collect the user behavior of each single reader. So they really can collect big data and know something about the behavior of each single person that is on their website, which is a huge difference if you don't have that information. So Texture is only available today in the United States and in Canada. And if they are moving over to other continents, it's not very clear. What is also interesting to say is something about the difference between Google Play and Amazon Kindle kiosk. So Amazon has launched its Kindle Fire kiosk in the United States as well as in the UK. And they are planning also for other areas. And they sell an individual magazine or a subscription base. They don't sell individual articles yet. Neither does Google Play. So here you would see a lot of vendors who are on the market space. There is one big difference between Amazon Kindle Fire Kiosk and some of the others, like for instance Readly, is that Amazon has the detail of each single article. Sorry? 5 minutes. So they can really target that somebody's interested in a specific article and not just on a page reference. A lot of those kiosks are selling access to pages. And so you never know which article was being clicked on, whereas Amazon is collecting that information quite well. In the speed in the consumer space, so my point was just now with the consolidation that also individuals want to have a consolidated feed. They don't subscribe to one specific newspaper or magazine anymore. And Blendle showed that success. They want to open up and have access to multiple sources. Same for speed. If you look to, if people are willing to wait, then you will see that speed is of the essence. And this you will see especially also with apps or websites. If your website or app is slow, people simply drop off. I was telling you something about Texture and also about keeping track about data. So Steve Mike is the Vice President of Rogers Media. That's his statement. They really want to track and to monitor the user behavior of individual readers. Because at the end of the day, they want to offer consolidation. So today Texture is more than 200 titles. US, the major US magazines, go and visit their website. but they also want to collect the user behavior there, and that's extremely important to that level. The same for the New York Times. They want to put a strategy up with a recommendation engine what to read. I think I have still a few minutes now. I'm not going to dive in all of these players. There's a separate chapter there about Apple News, about Facebook Instant articles, etc. I did a presentation there in Vienna last week. If somebody's interested to talk to me about that subject, you're very welcome. But what I do want to share with you is a survey that we recently pulled off in the Netherlands. Our marketing guys went to a newsstand and they bought newspapers, physical newspapers and magazines. They went to the internet and bought a day access to each of those titles, and they bought a marker. And they checked the quality of those e-papers in comparison with the hard copy stuff. And I can tell you one thing, it's horrendous. It's really horrendous. And to showcase that, you might have heard that we had elections last week in the Netherlands. And this gentleman here on this image, there are some Dutch people here. In Holland we have 100 seats in the House of Parliament. And his party had 38 seats and they lost 29. So that's a severe loss. But what happened in the newspaper here, if you click on his picture, you wouldn't see his picture, but you would see the animation of the roses. So these apps, etc., they are full of surprises and they contain things which are completely not in the newspaper. So from a quality point of view, it's a very poor situation. To wrap up, I want to give you one example which really was appealing for us. And this is in Australia from a German publisher called Bauer. They are also in Australia and they have a magazine called the Australians Women's Weekly. They were losing circulation, ad revenue. And we looked at the opportunity to digitize all the recipes in their magazine for the last decade. So we digitized 50,000 recipes. And they have now generated a website called Food to Love. Whereas on each Monday, they are kicking off an email that is suggesting a starter and a main dish and a dessert to cook at home in the upcoming weekend. And if you order it before Wednesday, they will ship you a box of ingredients. And there's even a wine arrangement that you can buy alongside with it. In short, Bauer makes now more money in selling boxes of ingredients and foods and wine with this magazine that they do with their magazine. Here you would see an example where they can also reuse their content from the past. Am I still with the timelines here? Okay, so I got 1 more minute, so one more example from a Dutch publisher who is in craft magazines, knitting, etc., which is not my specialty. So they have a lot of books about knitting, and they wanted to come up with a website, whereas we took all the patrons from the past and put them also on a website where somebody could order the pattern for a specific thing to make, as well as also with the ingredients to prepare it. So I'm done with my presentation. Can I invite people that have a question?
We have time for one burning question. Otherwise, please come and see Koos at the stand that X-Cago have here.
No questions?
No questions. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.